Welcome back to HPP, the Hoops Prospects Podcast. Last week, we were joined by all Pac-12 forward Jabari Walker and had an in-depth discussion about the top stretch bigs in this year's draft class. If you haven't checked out that episode already, please do so on hppod.buzzsprout.com or on any of the major podcast outlets, including Apple and Spotify. My name is Richard Harris, and I'm joined by three HP analysts, TJ Brown, Drew Barton, and Hugh Baxter. Today, we will focus on the top senior prospects in the 2022 NBA draft. And later, we will be joined by coach and trainer Andrew Heath, who will explain the ins and outs of prepping for draft workouts and other details about draft workouts that many of you may not be aware of. So, gentlemen, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Doing very well.
Go ahead, Hugh.
I'm great, Rich. Busy day. I'm trying to get through it all. Having a good one.
All right. The weather here in the New York, New Jersey area is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it's beautiful out here too. It's beautiful here in the Bay Area. Golden State Warriors are on TV right now, so I'll be tracking them. It's a good day for basketball.
Yeah. Drew, are you in pain not being able to watch right now? Or do you have it on the phone?
It's yeah. Obviously, viewers can't see, but I got ESPN off to the side, just every once in a while to take a look. I'm excited for this series. I really am. I think the Warriors got this one, but I think this will be a really good series. New guard versus old guard kind of deal.
Any thoughts about the games leading up to this series?
I enjoyed the Wolves Grizzlies series. That was a fun series. I wish it went 7. I wish somehow the Wolves figured out a way to push it to a game 7, but they lost on their home court. But yeah, I enjoyed the talent. Karl Towns, who had his foibles, his missteps in the series in terms of foul trouble, in terms of poor shooting or lack thereof, he came back and he played well. Obviously, Anthony Edwards had his breakout during that series. But yeah, so I wish that series went 7, but Grizzlies I expected to win, and they're gonna obviously face the Golden State Warriors here. That series, oh man, I definitely enjoyed some of the spectacle of it. Like that Ja Morant dunk was awesome. Seeing Ant Edwards on a national stage was great, but oh my god, I've never wanted to rip more hair out of my head than watching those guys play basketball. To imagine that there were 2 number 1 overall picks, 2 number 2 overall picks, a number 4 overall pick. All that talent and the basketball IQ at some points felt like it was at a negative was shocking to me. I don't know. It was super enjoyable from the raw talent, but God, the basketball, sometimes I was like, wow.
Yeah, and that sort of exposes the experience level of guys. Karl Towns' second ever playoff series. Ja Morant, second ever time in playoffs. Anthony Edwards, obviously, first time. So, yeah, these guys, they're talented, like we just said, high drafted, highly touted, but they're not high-level playoff players at this point, and they'll get there.
Well, actually, go ahead, Hugh. I got to follow up on that point by TJ, if you don't mind me. You said they'll get there, and I couldn't help but watching the end of Game 6, watching McLaughlin being on the court and D'Angelo Russell being on the bench, and watching Karl Anthony Towns commit stupid fouls and launch up crazy threes with 23 seconds left on the shot clock. I had to wonder, does this team really want to roll with these guys, or do they I've always thought, my first thought when thinking Minnesota with Russell and Towns is they're never going to win. They're never going to win it. And then they drafted 2 other guys that were potential problem guys in McDaniels and Anthony Edwards. Now, those 2 have actually turned out to be exceeded expectations. They've played better than they did in college. And so now I'm thinking, okay, you got those guys turned around, but it still seemed like Russell was still Russell and Towns was still Towns. I really have serious doubts. I predicted they would win the series, but they have more talent than Memphis, at least starting lineup wise. But Memphis can't claim that they had more experience because they don't. But I just don't know if Towns and Russell, I don't know if you saw Towns at the press conference after the game, but he was just, I don't know, he was just kind of like, yeah, we lost. Yeah, he just didn't seem to really bug him. I don't know. I just don't know if they have what it takes to be champions. Can you comment away?
Yeah, my quick 2 cents in terms of the overall future, long term, in terms of what they can achieve. And I'm not gonna act like I watched a whole lot of Timberwolves basketball. I obviously watched a good amount of playoffs and checked in on Anthony and the other young talent, Jaden McDaniels, who's in his second year. And he had his best game of his career in Game 6, scored 24, made at least 3 really crucial threes in that game. I think this team overachieved in the sense of pushing this to 6 games to begin with. So all the poor basketball decisions / the youth that Karl Towns, I didn't watch the press conference, but sort of the nonchalant nature. And a lot of people don't like just generally him as your primary number one. I assume or predict that Anthony Edwards at some point, if they stay together, he would usurp Towns in the pecking order if he hasn't already, and Towns would be the number 2. Which I think would be probably more complimentary for both those guys. But yeah, again, I'm more positive than negative because I thought this would go 5, like a gentleman's sweep, in some games being blowouts, where instead they had leads, they blew them, but they still pushed this to 6 games. And guys like Towns, I feel like he's been in the NBA for forever, but he's still under 28, if I'm not mistaken, under 27 easily. So I don't think it's enough. He's 26. I just checked. So I don't think I haven't seen enough to write him off or to declare this is what he is for sure, and that there won't be some incremental improvement if the situation improves, if they get a better point guard. Even though I like D'Angelo Russell, I think his best fit or best role will probably be a Manu Ginobili type, where he is the 6th man and comes in very crucial moments, but doesn't have to be the starter that runs the show 24/7 as the primary. But yeah, they have a lot of room to grow, and if they're smart with their free agency, their draft picks, then I think they have a pathway.
Hugh, I'm going to hold you up for this one more second. What happened there? So to me, I don't think it necessarily leads to being a happy individual or having a happy life. But you can kind of sense people who have that killer instinct or that insane drive to win. I don't really think it's healthy, from a psychological standpoint, people like Michael Jordan. But we're not talking about whether they're happy or not. We're talking about whether they're going to win NBA championships. And I just don't think Towns has that. I think he's happy kind of just where he is, I mean, yeah, he'd like to win, but if he doesn't, okay, I didn't. All right, Hugh, I'm sorry. I cut you off a while ago. I think it was like 2 hours ago. You were going to say.
No, I mean, I think you guys all hit the nail on the head with the Timberwolves chat. I'm not the biggest Karl Anthony Towns fan. I think he plays a bit soft, and he's just a little corny in my opinion. I mean, that's obviously got nothing to do with his basketball game, but I think Minnesota definitely needs to head in the Anthony Edwards direction because he is special. And I think in the future, they're going to just start to build around him. And like you guys said, the passing of the guard from Towns and D'Angelo Russell, I guess, to Anthony Edwards, that's what should happen in the future of Minnesota. But for the playoffs so far as a whole, I'm just disappointed we didn't get a Game 7. I just wanted one Game 7 round 1. So it was a shame we didn't get one of those. Hopefully we can get one of those soon. But I was looking today, and all the higher seeds took care of business. So we have the 1 through 4 seeds on the East and the 1 through 4 seeds on the West remaining. So I'm excited for more basketball coming.
Well, let me ask you guys this. I don't know, Drew and I were in an interview, so I do not know who won in the Celtics and Bucks. Does everybody else know?
Yeah, I caught the end of that game.
Okay, so before you tell me, I actually, and this is probably no shock, because I said I'd like Boston to win the East if Robert Williams was healthy. But at the time, I took the Bucks. But now the Celtics have Robert Williams back, and the Bucks don't have Middleton. So I definitely like the Celtics in this series. Now tell me, who won Game 1?
Take your guess, Rich. Take your guess.
Yeah. I was gonna say, who do you think won? I'll tell you, Rich. Here's what I'll do for you. When we got off our interview, the fourth quarter started 78-70 Bucks. That was going into the fourth.
Okay.
Who do you think? Who do you
Well,
think? Well,
knowing that, I would have to take the team in the lead. But the way you're setting it up, I think you're going to tell me the Celtics won.
No, so the Milwaukee won, and they won in very convincing fashion.
Wow. Wow.
That final, if they had kept the foot on the gas, that would have been a 20-point win.
Okay.
They obviously pulled. I was totally with you. I still think this is a series that has 7-game potential. I think Boston sweeping the Nets. Those long layovers are always, I think, sometimes detrimental, especially when you dominate. Like they kind of were in control the whole time. I think there's a little bit of a detriment to your just like the mental. You're not in that killer instinct mode. You're like you were saying, like you're kind of down from that. You're just kind of okay. Who are we going to play? Who's next? Maybe they took them lightly because Middleton's out. I still think this has 7-game potential or game 7 potential, but the bright side is it goes both ways. Giannis shot 9 for 25. He did have a triple double, but he was 9 for 25 and they still convincingly won. So I think the question Boston has to look at it goes, are the others going to step up like that? You know, Bobby Portis had a double double, I believe. Grace Allen's been shooting the hell out of the ball. I don't know how well. Yeah, he's been playing really well. So Boston has to look at it two ways. Like we're in trouble. Giannis didn't play that great offensively and we lost by that much. Or, hey, I doubt Bobby Portis is going to average double-double. Maybe Grace Allen's cools down. So we'll see. And I know Jaylen Brown didn't play super well either. I think he had like 12 points.
Yeah, Boston didn't shoot great collectively either as a team. So I think they'll probably just scrap that one off and get back to it. But hopefully this is the series where we're hoping that we thought we're going to get with Brooklyn, Boston.
Absolutely.
Right. So I assume everyone believes the Sixers are in big trouble without Embiid.
I had the Heat prior to Embiid going down in a 6-game series. But a lot of it wasn't to do with Embiid. It's I just do not trust James Harden in the playoffs, period. Like I thought Embiid was going to come in, do his absolute best to carry them. But I think the Heat have the bodies to throw at him just to kind of wear him down. You know, fatigue and conditioning has always been a kind of Achilles heel for Embiid. But now if he's out, especially 2 games for sure, maybe 3, that I do not trust James Harden. They're going to put him through hell. They're going to throw athletic, determined, gritty wing defender after athletic, determined, gritty wing defender at him and say, beat us. He's not going to be able to do it. This could be over in 5. I'd like it not to be, but this could be a 5-game series. Miami Heat.
And one of the knocks, we talked about this in a previous show. One of the knocks I had about the trade for Harden was losing Drummond. And this is exactly why. He was playing well for the Sixers. I don't know what the difference was, but yeah. So do we all like the Warriors over the Grizzlies?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have the Warriors. I think it'll be a good 6-game series at least. But I do think that if the Grizzlies struggle with the Wolves in some stretches, and I think the Wolves are clearly inferior to the Warriors, then I think the Warriors should have a good handle on Ja and I love Desmond Bane. Desmond Bane, oh man, I can't believe how good he is, like legitimately. But I think they could hopefully cool him down from his 40+% 3-point shooting and averaging over 20 a game on a consistent basis. And yeah, I don't know if they. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if Xavier Tillman and Jaren Jackson are going to really be good defenders or really hold down the fort as like the backline defense. Jaren Jackson still getting in foul trouble. So yeah, I have Golden State in at least 6 games.
Two things you can count on in that series is Jackson has had foul trouble since college. It was a huge problem in Michigan State, still is. And the other thing is Desmond Bane, I don't think has ever shot below 40% from the 3-point line ever. I think he shot all 4 seasons of college, and I think he's done it as a pro. Has he not? I think it's pretty much across the board. If not, he's close to 40%. He's just a dead-eye shooter.
I'm someone I'm not as fond of the Warriors as everyone else is. I think everyone's just been so quick, especially in that last series, to fall back in love with this team. And I mean, the way they play basketball is beautiful to watch. And when they're all shooting the lights out, it's just an insane thing to see. But I think Memphis can give them a pretty good crack here. I also think people, I would have looked great playing against Denver last series, some of their wings. I mean, the Denver made Golden State look amazing. So that's why I'm a little bit more excited for this series. I want to see Golden State do what they were doing to Denver against a much better Grizzlies team. So that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take my Warriors Bay Area loyalty and fandom. I'll tone that down a little bit. I do agree with you that like the talent disparity here is like the Grizzlies have the talent, but after watching that Minnesota, I was scared of this matchup going into this series just from like they've got the young legs, they're very gritty, like they talk a lot of smack. This is a team that is on the rise. The thing that scares me though is that Minnesota series should have been a 4-1 gentleman's sweep for the Timberwolves. You get down 26 to the Warriors, a veteran team with a guy like Draymond running the show, you're down 36, and then you're down 40, and then you just got embarrassed. So that's the only thing. If Minnesota comes out and currently they're up 32-24 at the end of the first.
You mean Memphis? But
I'm sorry, Memphis. You know, and they have that kind of nature to them. You know, you're not going to beat a veteran team. But with that being said, they have, in my opinion, out of the remaining teams in the playoffs, they have just the widest range of outcomes game to game. Like they could come out and beat you by 20, shoot the ball really well. Jock could have a triple double and have a poster dunk, or they could be awful, turn the ball over. Jaren Jackson's sitting on the bench the whole time because he's in foul trouble. I you know, it'd be an interesting series. I think it goes 6, but I got the Warriors.
Good first quarter for the Grizzlies. Yeah, watch out, Drew. You know FedEx Forum is pumping right now.
Hey, it's okay. Hey, John Morant went 5 for 9, 2 for 4, 14 points. The way he shot last year, I didn't think it was going to be that bad the rest of the playoffs because he struggled offensively, but we got something for him. We got something for him.
Get ready for a Game 7 in Memphis.
We just need one. We just need to win one of the next 2. We win. I was telling my girlfriend at the start of the game, I was like, we could lose this game by 30 as long as we win the next one. Got to get one. Just got to get one.
I just got a text from Hugh's agent. The Denver Nuggets want to sign you.
Oh, sorry, guys. Got to go. My phone's ringing. Important call, I got to say.
So what about the Suns Mavs? We see this going 7?
This one's kind of tough because I think like the Mavs looked really good last series, but I think that was a little bit skewed by, I just think Utah's kind of over, like they're over themselves. Like I just think that team doesn't really care about one another. There seems to be tension between Gobert and Mitchell. They're super overrated defensively. Like their perimeter defense is pretty awful. They just happen to have a 3-time defensive player of the year, you know, standing under the rim. I think I'm going to take the Suns just because I feel that if Booker comes back to form, you know, he does what he does. And I think that they have the bodies to throw at a guy like Brunson and Don, you know, I think, but Mikal Bridges was a finalist for defensive player of the year. Chris Paul is a pit bull, even as he just gets a little bit older. You know, I just don't know if I trust Dinwiddie and Brunson to be sidekicks as much as I trust, like, you know, Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton to be the sidekicks to Chris Paul. So I think this is one that can go 6 because I think Luka's got some magic and I think he'll have a big game or 2, but I think the Suns are just a better team.
I hear you, Drew. I had the Suns. Mentally, I just thought that they would go to the finals. I kind of think it's going 7 and Dallas is going to take it somehow. It's hard for me to explain because they looked pretty connected, especially defensively against the Jazz. And I just think something is just flowing right now. Jalen Brunson is not the Jalen Brunson of the regular season. Luka Doncic is like riding a bike. He can do whatever he wants on the basketball court. Guys like Maxi Kleber, Dorian Finney-Smith, they fit their role exceedingly well. And if Devin Booker is not 100% when he plays in the series, I'm not sure if Phoenix can get out of it. I'm excited to watch the first game. I'm going to definitely study up and see what sort of patterns, what sort of, I guess, things occur in that matchup. I'm curious to see how Chris Paul plays. I'm not sure he'll have as easy pickings as he did against the Pelicans, against this Mavericks team, because this Mavericks team's defense is legit, defensively as a team. So yeah, I kind of leaning towards the Mavericks over the Suns, which is I would never have expected me saying this at any point during the regular season.
I like it, TJ. I think you could be right. I mean, the Mavs defense has been so impressive to me this year. I did not expect that from a Jason Kidd coach team coming into the season, but they've been, and I mean, we always applaud the wings that the Suns have, 3-and-D wings, but the Mavs with Dorian Finney-Smith and Reggie Bullock, you could argue that and then that can almost cancel out some of those Suns wings with Jay Crowder and Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson maybe. So I think this game, I think the the dark horse in this game, who's going to probably make the biggest difference throughout the whole series, maybe not game to game, but across the whole series, will be DeAndre Ayton. I just don't think the Mavs have a good matchup for that. So that could be the challenge, just that interior presence. If Chris Paul can get pick and rolls going with Ayton and get him at some nice lobs, easy buckets, and get him feeling himself a bit, then I see the Mavs falling into a bit of trouble. But again, I just hope for a great series.
On paper, Ayton's the difference.
Mhm.
He's the difference. But again, he's another Jaren Jackson. I mean, not in terms of foul trouble, but I just don't trust Ayton. Never liked him as the top overall pick. Luka probably never liked him as the top overall pick. So he probably has some extra motivation in this series. I like the Suns. I like the Suns in 7. So. All right, so before we dive into the top seniors, I want to review the results from the Portsmouth Invitational Tournament. It's an annual event for seniors who are unlikely to be invited to the NBA Combine. So when we looked at analyzed the results from the tournament, and we got a little summary here for you. The top overall performers in athletic testing. So we're talking about all the different drills they do. We basically took their percentiles, added them up, took an average. And the top overall athletic performers were Fats Russell, point guard from Maryland, Jared Roden, wing from Seton Hall, Quentin Jackson, wing from Texas A&M, Rocky Krauser, I think it's Krauser. He's the one player I'm not familiar with on this list. He's a stretch big from North Dakota State. Peyton Willis, point guard from Minnesota, and Stanley Amudier, who was recently on the show, a wing from Arkansas. As far as the best sprint times, Russell, Amudier, and Jamari Bouye, another guest who was recently on our show, had the best sprint times, all finishing under 3.2 seconds for the half-court sprint. The top standing verticals. Now, at Pitt, for whatever reason, they only test standing vertical, which is probably the more important vertical. And the best ones were posted by Russell, Bouye, Amudier, Krauser, and they all jumped higher than 33 inches standing. So that's very nice. And the all Pitt tournament team I think they actually selected 10 players. Well, anyway, I'll read them off. We had Utah State's Justin Bean, Josh Carlton of Houston, Tyrese Martin of UConn, Tulsa's Jariah Horn, Seton Hall's Roden, Washington's Terrell Brown, Mississippi State's Garrison Brooks, Miami of Florida's Charlie Moore, Boston U's Javante McCoy, Virginia Tech's Kive Luma, Missouri State's Gage Prim, and the tourney MVP was Michael DeVoe of Georgia Tech. Brown and Martin led the event in scoring with 19.7 points per game. Horn had the most threes in the tourney, making 11 and shooting 44% from deep. Texas A&M's Jackson led the event in both blocks and steals with 8 apiece, while Richmond's Jacob Gilliard tied Jackson in steals with 8 and led the event in assists with 21 and had just 5 turnovers. So that's better than a 4-to-1 turnover ratio. And lastly, 11 players measured with a wingspan of +5 or greater. The average wingspan, by the way, in the NBA is about +3. So the top wingspans, we had, I'm not listing them all, but the players you might be familiar with, where there's Jonathan Williams, who had a wingspan of 7.25, LSU's Darius Days, 6.75, Bouye, 6.75, Roden, 6.25, Belmont center Nick Muzinski, 6.25, JD Note, 5.5, and lastly, Bryce Hamilton at 5.25. So that's basically the summary of the Pitt event. And so moving on to our top seniors, these are guys that we consider to be, most of them are second round picks and or will go undrafted. A few could sneak into the first round. So we'll start with Purdue's big man, Travion Williams. TJ, what do you like and what do you dislike about Williams?
Yeah, and very briefly before I just go all in and Travion,
for a few minutes. I think NBA teams should not overlook guys because they're older. In this playoffs, we've seen the value of a Herb Jones who stayed 4 years, Jose Alvarado who stayed 4 years. So there's definitely people that may be over 22, even 23 years old, or even older, that you shouldn't just overlook just because they're a bit not on the most high upside. They stayed longer. And Travion
What
Williams is
about-
an example of that. Yeah, Travion Williams is a really good example. Sorry, you had something to say, you?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm a 24-year-old senior. Am I too old?
Oh, you're
Is
getting there.
23 the
Lou.
cutoff?
You're not too old. If you have the talent, if you have the ability, it don't matter how old you are.
Yes. Thanks,
But
TJ.
of course, that's the real. Look at Duarte for the Indiana Pacers. He's a solid player. I don't care that he's older than most second, third year players in the NBA. Yeah, Travion Williams, Purdue. Purdue was one of the best teams in the country, mainly because outside of Jaden Ivey, who's obviously very different talent level, very different range in the draft. But Travion Williams was probably their second, maybe third, if you like Zach Edey a lot. I'd argue their second most important player because of his size at 6'10", 265. That's what they list him in that range. As a center, they do list him as a power forward, but I think translating to the NBA because of his size and he's not the most athletic big man, he's going to be a true five. And he's also not a shooter. But anyway, enough of his negatives, just to get straight to his positives. He's the best passing big man in the NBA. Excuse me, in the NBA draft, in this upcoming draft. I think that's a safe argument to say. He has all the different flicks that you can imagine. He also has outstanding court vision for his position. He's also very patient as well, which is not always something that you see from a college big man. He may have some skill, but he's also not rushing into things. And he's also a very good rebounder, extremely productive. He had the highest rebounding percentage one of the highest rebounding percentages in the country, 7th in the nation, and was second in the Big Ten in rebounding percentage. Also was high in offensive rebounding percentage as well. And he turns 22 in September. So yeah, again, his main selling point is that he's a 6'10" big that's extremely good at making decisions and can pass the heck out the ball. Besides that, he's not going to be a plus defender as well as a plus athlete at the center position. However, if you're just going to get spot minutes from him as someone that can just make good decisions, I think he's worth picking up late in the second round or giving him a chance in the summer league.
He's a little on the younger side too for a senior, if he's still 21.
Yep, he turns 22 after the draft.
Right.
But yeah, I like Travion a lot. The way he processes the game, even though he's not blowing you away with his scoring or his he has a nice post up, but nothing too outrageous like a Luka Garza, who was really productive last year at Iowa. But it's good enough, and I think he has a good chance to maybe just give a team their third string center, for example.
Yeah, he also this year, I saw him take some outside shots, not many, but it's something he's aware of, to work on, and he's a really fun player to watch. He'll blow you away with his passing.
I was going to say, TJ, that was a good call on your part with the passing. I think we've seen it. I mean, obviously Jokic is the pinnacle of what a passing all around big can be, but there's value in a guy who can suck in a double team, get the ball moving, can work some high-low action, can pass from anywhere on the court. That matters. So, I think you hit the nail on the head, man. Will he start? Probably not, but is he a guy that can come in and just help stabilize a second unit, give you a secondary playmaker? Absolutely.
Yeah, and very funny. Just because you talked, it just made me think of what if the Golden State Warriors, I'm not sure if they have a second rounder, they would love Travion Williams. They would oh, you can pass? Oh, just play with Draymond.
You're a bigger Draymond.
And his biggest concern is his defense. He's really slow-footed. He's not a big wingspan guy either. So he has to learn how to make up with his smarts instead of his physical ability. And Draymond Green is obviously, he has a good Draymond has a good wingspan for his height as well. So he's not as limited, but there's no one better to learn from than a Draymond type.
Agreed. The next guy on our list is Matthew Meyer, and I actually he's been kind of slowly dropping on our board as the season goes on. Matthew was somebody I figured would jump into a full-time role this year and just explode, and it didn't happen. I'm not sure why. He definitely got more minutes, but it just didn't translate. That productivity that he brought as a reserve did not translate as a starter. I don't know if it was the pressure of starting or the pressure of the draft or what. But Hugh, what do you make of Meyer?
Yeah, once I went back and looked at Meyer, he's a player that does most things pretty well, but I don't think he does anything great. And that is probably the biggest concern, going to be the biggest concern at the next level. He hasn't necessarily had a specialty yet. Last year, probably could have put that up to 3-point shooting. He shot 39% from three the previous season. But unfortunately, like you mentioned, dropped this year down to 32% from three. So probably not a good enough clip to be considered the shooter at the next level. Definitely not. So that was unfortunate, I think, for definitely his draft stock. But overall, I think I'm just most impressed with how hard he plays. Going back and watching, he clearly cares a lot about the game and he wants to make winning plays. He is relentlessly going after rebounds, especially offensive rebounds. He throws himself in there. He doesn't take plays off where he just sort of jogs back and plays defensive transition. As a shot goes up, he's charging in to try and create extra opportunities for his team. But his intangibles are pretty good. He's got 6'9", height, 225 pounds or 101 kilograms. He's got a 6'10" wingspan. So he's got the good and sort of that right build and intangibles to play in the NBA. But I think he's just a little bit raw in probably most, if not all, aspects of his game. His jump shot looks a little inconsistent. The more I watched, he starts with his feet super close and then sort of flares out as he's in the air, which didn't look great. And there is a little bit of a dip in his jump shot. So I think at the next level, wherever he's going to be playing next year, that will definitely be something he'll be working on, and his coaching staff will be working with him to clean, because that could hopefully send his 3-point percentage back in the right direction. But he does have the right length, the right sort of build, as I mentioned, to play defense. I think at the next level, he averaged 1.5 steals per game this year. So I understand, has a bit of defensive instincts and can use his length a bit. But I even saw him coming off some ball screens, which surprised me. I've watched Baylor a bit. We all have this past couple of years, and he was actually initiating at a pick and roll, not to much success often. But the fact that they were, a 6'9" guy coming off pick and rolls, trying to get downhill, create for others, get into the lane was impressive to me, because I think I sort of saw him more as a spot up, back cut slasher. But I think he just needs a bit of improvement across the board for him to be picked up in this second round. He needs to do pretty well in some of these team workouts or knock out the park some of these interviews to build some interest around him, because Baylor's got a few players on the draft board ahead of him, and he's going to have some work to do to have a good professional career.
Yeah, and perhaps this is just a product of just not starting. For 3 of his 4 years. Maybe if he came back for a 5th year, which he has the option to do, maybe we see him take off like we expected. Maybe this was a transition year. Just a guess on my part. I can't. Definitely, though, didn't live up to my expectations. The next guy on our list is from the team that's always expected to win the national championship and doesn't. Andrew Nebhard from Gonzaga. Drew, what do you make of Andrew Nebhard? You see him as a 2nd-round pick?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I think the Zags will get there. It'll happen eventually. As they become more prominent in the recruiting game, and they always work the transfer portal. They'll get there eventually, hopefully. But yeah, Andrew Nembhard, he's definitely a pass first point guard who really thrives in transition. I mean, that's the Zags offense. They love to get up and down, hit shooters for quick threes. I mean, it helps when you have a Chet Holmgren and a Drew Timme operating in kind of the post area as well. Pick up some easy assists with guys like that. Something about his game that I just like to point to is he's extremely well conditioned. I mean, this is a guy that plays full 40-minute loads against top competition throughout the season and never really looks tired, doesn't get sloppy with the ball. I mean, for the season, he had almost 6 assists per game to 1.9 turnovers. And for a guy who has the ball in his hand, is making a lot of decisions, is constantly in transition and doesn't come out of the game, that's a really impressive number. He has a solid build. I mean, he's 6'5", 6'6" wingspan, 195, 200 pounds. And he posted some really great advanced metrics defensively. And if you're more of an eye test person, he did average over 1.5 steals per game. So I think Nembhard plays hard, has a really great feel for the game, is kind of a fluid basketball player. he has a good shooting stroke statistically. He shot 87% from the free throw line. He doesn't get to the free throw line very often, less than 2 attempts per game. And he did shoot 38% from 3 this season. I'm not a big fan of his form. He kind of has a push release, which works for catch and shoot opportunities, or like if he can come off a screen and he's completely wide open, it works. But in terms of contested shot making, I'm a little bit, wary of how that's going to translate at the next level. The big knock on him for me offensively is that he obviously defers sometimes a little too much to my liking, as well as he doesn't attack the rim strong. I go back to that Arkansas game. He loves like the runners and floaters where he kind of just tries to, kiss it off the glass, bank them in. And when they're falling, it looks great. But, sometimes as great of a free throw shooter as he is, I would have loved to see him attack the rack strong. I mean, he's a 6'5" point guard, get to the basket strong, get to the line. I mean, he's so great from the free throw line that even if you don't convert and one after and one, you're going to go to the line and you go 2 for 2, 2 for 2. I mean, those start to add up as well as put people in foul trouble. And I think it boils down to he's just kind of an average athlete. He doesn't have the best, first step. He's not an explosive jumper. He doesn't look unathletic, but nothing really wows or pops. I know plenty of people are going to question some of his numbers as well, given that the conference they play in isn't the highest level. So some of those metrics maybe get a little bit skewed when you play some really poor teams like a Pepperdine, who aren't very good. But I like Nembhard. I mean, I definitely think that a team is going to look at him and go, he's got good size. He knows how to play the game. He's coming from a solid program. His numbers do, he almost about 12 points a game, almost 6 assists, limited turnovers. I think there's a backup point guard role for him at the next level. I just, I look at how efficient as he was. I just don't know if that's going to carry over. And, I see him more as a guy who you're going to come in to relieve your starting point guard, just kind of settle down your offense and, kind of run things that way. I don't see him ever, being a point of attack kind of guy.
I think, he was pretty efficient. I don't remember the numbers, but I think at least as a passer, he was very efficient.
Yeah, definitely.
Florida as well. The foul thing, that could be from having, 2 bigs in the lineup, makes it a little harder to drive. Timmy's always under the basket, and
sure.
And Chet sometimes is under the basket. So, but I will say, in the championship game against Baylor, Suggs was the only one who really seemed that he won the ball and wanted to attack. He seemed to be the only one who was willing to be aggressive. So I do see what you're saying about being passive.
Just one last quick point on him. I totally forgot. When you look at his biggest scoring outburst, especially this year, all of those games came when he shot over 50% from 3 on pretty high volume. So that's where, a scorer, if he's not hitting 4 or 5 threes a game, he's probably going to give you less than 10 points. So, again.
Well, one thing I've always been impressed with him is his ability to push it in transition and
100%.
Get up and down court transition. So a team that likes the run, would like him.
There's a fit in the NBA. It's just going to be as a second kind of string guy.
Right. So the guy I'm going to talk about, we brought up Herb Jones earlier, and I wouldn't say this guy is Herb Jones. There's plenty of differences, but I think he probably is not as good as Herb Jones in most things except for shooting. And I'm talking about Keon Ellis. He's a true 3-and-D guy, 6'6", was 6th in the SEC this year for plus minus. And I believe he has a chance to sneak into the end of the first round. He had 2 very good after doing JC. He had 2 years at JC, then played 2 years for Alabama, and he posted career shooting splits of 46% from the field, 37% for deep, and 83% from the foul line. So very nice shooting splits. And this year, he was one of the most efficient scores in the country in terms of points per possession. For overall scoring, 93rd percentile. For scoring as a spot-up shooter, 90th percentile. And for jumpers off the dribble in the half court, 100th percentile. So he's also a good athlete. He could improve his handle and his passing, which is where, Herb Jones has him right now. He's also not nearly as good a defender as Jones, but he is a good defender. He's aggressive, energetic, finished fifth this year in steals in the SEC with nearly 2 a game. Also had 0.6 blocks per game. So you're looking at a guy that's going to potentially give you 2 steals and a block per game. One of the bigger concerns is he weighs less than 180 pounds and he's 6'6". So he's definitely got to put on some weight and muscle for the next level. But I still think Keon Ellis has a very good chance to be a late first round pick.
I would love to see him. This is random, but I would love to see him on the Toronto Raptors. I don't know why. I do know why. Raptors love the lengthy 6'6", 6'7" guys. A little bit shorter than 6'6", I guess. That has the defined 3-and-D role. We have guards already. We have Scotty Barnes, who's our do-everything guy. We have Fred VanVleet. And obviously, he's not going to be inserted no matter where he goes super early in the rotation, most likely. But I think that would be a good place for him to develop. And yeah, he has Herb Jones, and I'm sure he has the contact of Herb Jones to get all the advice, all the tips of the trade from how to translate from Alabama's situation to the NBA. So I think he has a solid chance of being somebody that's good.
So next up on our list is Alondes Williams. I know he's a player you like, TJ. He was also a JUCO player. So what are the pluses and minuses of Alondes?
Oh, yeah. Before I even start, I have to say, I think Alondes is my favorite player out of the guys that we have that are seniors in this group. I think he should have a chance to go in the first round, late first. I know he's old, and I'll get to that in a second. He turns 23 in June. But yeah, as he said, he went from JUCO. He transferred to Oklahoma. He was a role player. He averaged less than 20 minutes per game at Oklahoma. Transferred again to Wake Forest this year, and is the ACC Player of the Year in a conference that has Duke, that has North Carolina. So a whole lot of talent in the ACC, and he was the Player of the Year for good reason. He was super productive. He's your do-everything point guard at 6'5", who's getting rebounds, who's scoring, who's getting to the basket, who's passing to mess up the ball. Even though he averaged 18.5 points, I think my favorite part of his game is his passing. He has awesome live dribble passes where he's just eyes are up, he's looking around, and is throwing right on target, right on time. He is turnover prone, so as fun as his passing is, he does average about 4 turnovers per 40. Over 3 turnovers, just the regular stat. His other big weakness is that he's just not a good three-point shooter. Averaged 28% from beyond the arc on 4 attempts, which is pretty solid volume. But obviously under 30% for a potential NBA guard is not good enough. But the caveat is that he's incredibly effective at two-pointers in terms of finishing around the basket and layups. He shot 60% from 2-point range, or his 2-point percentage was 60%. And that's really good for someone that's a guard that's heavily being focused on by the defense. So that's, I think, even more impressive than how bad maybe his three-point shooting is in terms of just a raw number. And to be honest, I don't know, he didn't shoot a lot of catch-and-shoot threes from the games that I watched of Wake Forest. So I think he shot ones that weren't always the easiest, and he's just a better driver, slasher than shooter at this point. And yeah, like I said, he has awesome size, 6'5", 210. I think he has a chance to be a guy. I'm not sure if he's going to get the ball in his hands immediately, if he's a backup point guard, but I would trust him. I would trust him to bend the defense and be at least a secondary ball handler. So I like him personally. If I was making a decision, I would hope that he goes in the late first round.
Yeah, I mean, definitely has that NBA, type frame already, body. So question, the 3-point shooting is going to haunt him, but, you can overcome that with good drills. By the way, I noticed when you said he's kind of old at 23, Hugh made a big old face.
I'm sorry, Hugh. I'm sorry. I'm talking as if I'm an NBA GM, and that's what they're gonna say. They're gonna say he's old at 23, going on 23.
Yeah, that's why I like Williams a lot. I love the story of JUCO to role player to ACC Player of the Year. I think he's a second round guy. Like the 3-point percentage and the turnovers and the age, you wrap it all together, like that's gonna scare people away. But I definitely think he should be drafted. That's not to say I think the talent's there. But I just that's more of just like, I hate how GMs kind of boil people down so quickly to like, well, you can't really shoot the 3 that well and you're old, so you're a second round pick. And it's like, it's not that simple, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if he crept up into the first round though. I wouldn't be shocked.
I would be surprised. I just think that's just my personal opinion. I'm more leaning towards that he's likely going to be a second rounder if I'm just being realistic. But he's also a good athlete. Forgot to mention that his athleticism pops. His athleticism is not below average. I think he'll fit right into the NBA.
Absolutely.
So all those things combined, I think he has a good chance. And yeah, I think Alondes is my favorite senior out of the bunch.
Yeah, the athleticism will, at least give you they will at least give you a look if you have the athleticism. Sometimes they won't even bother to look unless, you're ultra productive, like say like a Baylor Shireman or somebody like that, but yeah, I think, athleticism and age are the first two things they look at. So the next, Hugh, I think Collin Gillespie is younger than you, even though he's been in college basketball for like 10 years.
Making me feel real old.
Guys, I'm older than both of them, just as a heads up. I'm older than Hugh and TJ. So how do you think I feel?
So
and I'm not a college basketball player, so.
So Collin is probably my favorite player on this list. Not so much to be drafted or I think he's the most talented. Just probably my favorite guy to watch.
Yeah, I think if any of us had kids and said who we wanted to play basketball like, Collin Gillespie needs to come up on that list. The first thing I have written down for him is just simply winner. He plays the game the right way and he wants to win, and he will do whatever his team needs from him to win, which is that's how basketball should be played. That's how any sport should be played. So he's definitely the most accomplished player on the list, Big East Player of the Year and Scholar Athlete of the Year this past year, which, that speaks to his character, not just someone who only cares about basketball. Obviously, his studies are important to him. You hear the things Jay Wright says about him. It's just mind-blowing that this guy has been able to just be on this team forever, and he's such a great player for them. He's a floor general. He's an ultimate point guard who will do the little things. He'll find teammates open. He'll dial on the floor. He'll knock down big shots. He's a leader. Every time I saw Villanova huddle, everyone was eyes on him. What is Collin telling them to do? Like he was leading that team every single time. Every time there was a whistle, he was instructing people. So I love watching him play. He's one of the perfect college basketball players that you'll watch. And I think everyone should have enjoyed his Villanova career. And I got written down here that he was so impactful at Villanova that now that he's done, Jay Wright just couldn't do it anymore. Had to retire now that Gillespie's gone. That speaks volumes. If Jay Wright just can't do it anymore, can't survive without it. So for his intangibles, 6'3", 195 pounds or 88 kilograms, he was torching it this year. 15.5 points, 3.8 rebounds, and 3.2 assists. Shooting 43% from the field, 41.5% from three, and 90% from the free throw line. And that 41.5% from three isn't just on a couple shots a game. That's 7 attempts a game from behind the line, shooting 41%. He was knocking down big threes for them in the tournament when they needed it. When they would go on cold streaks, he would knock down shots for them. Just carrying that team really, and was such a confident shooter. It looks like he's just in control of his own game, knows what's going on, knows time and score, understands where his teammates are going to be, knows how to play off too. That was something my coaches loved to preach. And I'm sure a lot of college basketball coaches steal a lot of stuff from Villanova. And getting into the lane and jump stopping, playing off 2 feet, not being out of control. I think Collin Gillespie is the poster boy for that in college basketball. And so that is, not necessarily something that might work at the NBA level. He could make that work for himself at the NBA to get teammates open, but he's not necessarily coming down the lane, jumping off one and going and dunking on somebody. He's landing on two. He's pivoting. He's finding a shooter in the corner. Plays under control at all times. I think the comparison for me was Peyton Pritchard, but I think if he's in the NBA, can have a much greater impact than Peyton Pritchard had. Probably the shooting wise, yes, I think they're both good 3-point shooters. Peyton Pritchard didn't shoot it very well this morning, but I think defensively and in more, I think NBA teams would give him a bit more of the keys to the team as a backup point guard than the Celtics right now are giving Pritchard. And I think that's probably where he takes that step. I also have written down Jalen Brunson, just Villanova guys. I don't know if Collin Gillespie will ever quite get there scoring wise. Definitely not getting into the lane. There's little jump. He's probably not the same scorer that Jalen Brunson will ever be, but as an overall player, I think Collin Gillespie could potentially find himself a very good role on a backup on the NBA team. Perfect Spurs backup point guard. That's one of the last things I have written. I think he would be perfect for the Spurs system, plays basketball the right way, and I think a fan base would absolutely love how Collin Gillespie plays.
I think comparing Brunson to Gillespie, Brunson probably has him in, a slight edge on most categories except for shooting. Gillespie's a better shooter. So, but Brunson was a more impactful overall player, but he also played a much better team. So, but I think somewhere in between Brunson and Pritchard are good, is a good projection. And I think Brunson's success in the playoffs could lead to Collin Gillespie going from nobody was saying he would be drafted. Nobody even had him in their top 100 beside us when we've had him there all year long. But now I think Brunson actually might pave the way for him getting drafted.
That is so shocking to me that nobody had him that high. Like all you see in the NBA is people want point guards or guards, I guess, because everyone's so interchangeable now, who can shoot, play hard, and don't turn the ball over. Well, this is a guy that shoots, plays hard, doesn't turn the ball over, but he's on nobody's draft board. And it's not like he's 5'10", he's 6'3". Like I don't know. That just bothers me. Like
it's as I just got done saying with the Williams, athleticism and age are the first two things they think of. So, all right, moving on. Drew, what do you think of Ron Harper Jr., who played just down the road from me? For obviously the son of one of my favorite graphics this year was they had Ron Harper and said Ron Harper Jr. and then it said father Ron Harper. Never mind. I thought that was hilarious.
I guess people can't put two and two together.
Right.
You're asking too much from the average viewer now.
Right.
But I think Ron Harper Jr. was a really good college basketball player when I was kind of digging into him. I was kind of on ESPN. They said that a lot of games he actually started games listed as the starting power forward. He's 6'6", but he is 245. So although he's a bit on the shorter side, this is a very stocky built player. And it showed. I mean, he rebounded pretty well for being undersized. He averaged about 6 rebounds a game. And he did showcase the ability to switch on to wings and kind of play that, it's a kind of a taboo term in basketball. He was like a tweener. He was able to jump on the perimeter, drop back into the post if he had to. I think at the NBA level, because he's not a, elite or even really a plus athlete, I think the perimeter is probably going to be more likely where he's going to be kind of forced to, because I just don't know if he has the leaping ability to get down on the blocks and defend some of these guys. But I think he has the ability if need to, and he has enough, bricks in his back pocket, as some people will say, to hold his own in the post. He said 245 at 6'6" is a pretty packed in frame. He developed a pretty strong 3-point shot coming into this year. I mean, he shot it roughly about 40%, which is great. And it was on the same volume as his junior year, which I believe was close to about 4 or 5 attempts per game, if I'm not mistaken. Which, bodes really well as a 3-and-D kind of NBA prospect. That's like the NBA model everybody, dreams of, is a player that can defend multiple positions on the wing and hit a spot 3 if need be. And I like kind of the stuff per se that he's made of. He had 2 big game winners this year. I mean, he had the one against Purdue, he had the one against Indiana. So this is a guy who not afraid to take and make big shots against high level competition. We obviously know what Purdue represented, as a really good team this year. In Indiana, they got bounced in the playing game, but they did make it into the tournament and they had some good players on that team. The thing that kind of, I guess, scares me off of him a little bit is that I think he's probably peaked as a basketball player in terms of what he has to offer. If you look at his statistics over his last 3 years in particular, pretty much everything has stayed relatively stagnant. I mean, he's scoring a little bit more, but that's because he's playing more minutes and taking a few more shots, but his shooting percentage was 45 as a sophomore, 44 as a junior, 44 as a senior. Rebounds were 5.8 as a sophomore, 5.9, 5.9. Assists never climbed over, never got to 2 assists per game. And so I just feel that as a basketball player, we kind of see what he is. And the reality of it is he's not going to come to an NBA team where he's going to play about 34 minutes a game like he did at Rutgers. So obviously his numbers are going to depress just because he's not going to get the same volume. And so I just kind of wonder, the knock on these older guys is how much more potential, room for growth do they have? And we've seen guys kind of buck that trend, but I kind of fear Ron Harper might fall into that trend where it's like we've seen his best available skill set. Not saying that it doesn't have value at the next level, but I do kind of wonder, at the NBA level, is his three-point shot sustainable? He wasn't a great shooter until this year. He's not physically super imposing. He's not a great athlete. He's a solid, well-built player. I think there is a 3-and-D role for him, especially he has a 6'11" wingspan, which is great, but he doesn't have the greatest lateral foot speed. So if he can, defend with high intellect and high basketball IQ, hit that three ball, at 37 to 40%, there's definitely a role for him. I just kind of worry that teams are going to look at his, kind of stagnation in college, and that's going to push them off of him. Maybe, a little bit lower than his stats might suggest.
I'm going to take a different tact on your take on Ron Harper. And I've watched Ron Harper a ton. And the same thought always comes into my mind. And it's probably running through scouts' minds right now. And that is, you're too damn heavy. Lose some weight. You're too heavy. Lose some weight. If Ron Harper's father was a tremendous athlete till he blew out his knee. And that was at a time where if you injured your knee, a lot of times you just never were the same. That doesn't happen anymore, at least not as nearly as much. I think Ron Harper could be a good athlete if he lost 20, 30 pounds.
That's fair.
I think Ron Harper could be a very good defender if he lost 20 or 30 pounds. He's already a good rebounder, and he does a little bit of everything, can score inside. Even now, carrying all that extra weight, he's still like a lob threat, So I think Ron Harper actually has a lot of upside, but it's up to him. And teams will probably not draft him because of that weight. But if he can get into the G League and take this stuff seriously, he could definitely be, a solid player in the NBA someday.
Yeah, I think he's a good basketball player, and that's a fair point I didn't even think of. He's a good basketball player, but the physical limitations, usually we worry about guys being too thin, but this is a guy that might I didn't think about that. He drops 20 pounds. Like you said, he does get to the rim. He can play down in the paint. He has like the technical skill to play at all three levels, but yeah, I can see him. He drops a few pounds.
I've also seen him play tremendous defense.
Yeah. I think the IQ's there.
I can remember when, Lamar Stevens was a senior at Penn State. Harper gave him fits, and Lamar Stevens was one of the top scorers in the country. And, but he really, and now Stevens is like, backup power forward, or at least third string power forward for the Cavs. So yeah, potential's there. It's all up to Ron.
My quick 2 cents is just that, let's say he doesn't lose 20, 15 pounds. There's guys that are a bit on the heftier side that have carved out roles. Grant Williams in the playoffs for the Celtics. Lou Dort, not the same sort of player, but he's also a heftier 6'4" player. Eric Pascal, who's even heavier, I think, or probably just as heavy at 6'6", maybe 250 or too heavy, high 240s. So I think there is a chance. Just that he has to prove that his jump shot's translatable, as well as that defense.
But look at Naz Reid. Naz Reid was obviously overweight, just like Ron is. And Naz didn't get drafted. He was projected probably early in his freshman season to be a first-round pick. And I still had him being like a middle second-round pick when that draft went off. He didn't get drafted because he was heavy. Now look at him. He's not heavy anymore. And now he's a solid backup center with upside. That's what Ron Harper has to do.
Yep, no, for sure.
Grant Williams isn't heavy anymore. I don't think.
Yeah, I'm just giving examples of pudgier players that
right.
Earlier on in Tennessee, he was definitely chubby. I was just giving if he doesn't lose the weight, I'm not saying he won't. I'm just assuming that, let's say most likely he doesn't shed 15, 20 pounds. Look at Eric Pascal. Do what Lou Dort does.
Grant Williams as well.
Right. I think Lou Dort, though, is like, athleticism, all the guys we talked about, somehow he was able to be a tremendous athlete even when he was carrying extra weight. But anyway, we're digressing. I get your point. I'm just saying, if he wants to be a third stringer, then keep the weight on. If he wants to be somebody gets regular minutes, lose the weight, and you might have a chance of being an NBA regular. And that's coming from me, the fattest person on this panel. So one of my favorite players to watch over the past few years is Michael DeVoe. And he plays the game with swag and flair. He's a smooth combo guard, has decent size, 6'4" with a 6'7" wingspan, all pretty good for especially somebody who can play the point. He's more skilled and athletic, and he's a lefty, but he plays at his own pace, and he has a good feel for the game. And he's like, he's not explosive player, but he has a nice handle, and he can create his own shots with step backs, combination moves. And he's also very good shooting off the dribble, 80th percentile for PPP this year, shooting off the dribble. For the last 3 seasons, he's averaged at least 15 points a game and 3 assists. Played with Alvarado for the majority of time. This was the first season he didn't play with Alvarado. So, and this year he ended up scoring nearly 18 points a game, was ranked 3rd in the ACC in scoring. He's definitely a triple threat. He will aggressively attack the basket, and he can make passes and shots off the dribble. And he makes a lot of flashy passes, but the problem there is he also can be turnover prone. I think he averaged close to 3 a game this year, and he never in any season at Georgia Tech did he have a assist turnover ratio better than 1.3. And defensively, it's definitely not a focus. This is a kid who's definitely spent a lot of time polishing his offensive game. And like I said, he can play it with flair and skill. Clearly better than average to most players, but the lack of athleticism is probably what's going to kill him, because he probably could be a decent defender, if he put his mind to it, but without that athleticism, will he be able to defend at the NBA level? I don't know, but definitely a very skilled player. You just wish he had a tad more athleticism, and he'd be a surefire 2nd round pick. As it is, I still think he has a chance. It all depends, do you think he can cut it? But he's definitely a skilled player. Kind of a Collin Gillespie with a lot of flair and confidence and swag.
I can see. Oh, go ahead, TJ.
All right, I'll just say, I love swaggy players, but at the end of the day, there's going to be better scorers than him in the NBA. He just has to make sure to carve out a lane or a role that he can succeed in. That doesn't mean you have to score. That is not being a 20-point per game scorer, which is less likely to occur.
Yeah, I was going to say that, I've seen Mike play. I watched him play a lot in the before conference play turned around. I know Georgia Tech wasn't the best team this year, and I go I could see him. I feel like his role is I don't know if he gets drafted. I could see him finding his way onto a summer league team, a G League team, putting up some big offensive numbers, just playing with that swag that he has. And I could see him finding his way onto a bench unit as kind of a shock trooper, where he comes in, gives you some quick points, then they pull him the moment the starters come back in. I think that's his role, but I think his path to get to the NBA, I don't see him getting drafted because those question marks, but I see him having some big games in a summer league setting, a G League setting, and teams going, hey, we need a scoring punch. This guy did it in college. He can shoot the 3 ball well. And, he's fun. He's fun to play with because he's out there throwing cool passes. That's how I think he makes an NBA roster. I don't see him getting drafted, though.
Got a little bit of white chocolate in this game, doesn't he?
I can see that.
I see it too.
So next up on our list is Buddy Boeheim. TJ, what do you think of Buddy? Not many people are liking him to get drafted from what I can see.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised by that. Buddy Boeheim, if you don't know, he's from Syracuse. He's a 6'6" wing who is a shooting specialist specifically off of movement. So coming off pin downs, running off of flare screens. That's his specific niche.
He's pretty underwhelming in other categories. When obviously assuming translation to the NBA, he's a below average athlete, not the greatest defender, not a ball handler, but he can shoot the mess out the ball. He can shoot heavily contested shots. He can shoot off of movement, like I said, which is also a rare skill. Just think of the Duncan Robinson types that run at full speed, stop and drill a three in people's faces, or just run off of a screen and create that half second of time to let off a really nice three. But yeah, there's no question about his jump shot. And obviously, if you can shoot the mess out the ball, you should get a look in the NBA. And he has a nice high release. He's unfazed by heavy contest. He got a lot of those in Syracuse his last couple of years. And he did shoot under 35% this past year. The year before in 2020-21, he shot 38% from three. But it's good to contextualize that he was the main scoring option for a Syracuse team that didn't have a lot of penetrators. So he had to carry a heavy load. And again, he was heavily guarded off of screens, and he wasn't not getting open looks barely ever. But yeah, he has a chance. He has nice size at 6'6". He just has to prove that he can shoot the mess at the ball and be open or create open looks for himself.
Yeah, do you think he can defend TJ at all at the NBA level? Obviously played the zone in Syracuse.
Yeah, no, he didn't. Thanks for bringing that up. No, he can't.
That's what.
Keep it real, TJ. Keep it real.
I was waiting to see if he was going to say it.
Yeah, I pride myself on being honest and like saying it how I see it. And yeah, he's not going to be a good defender or an average defender at the NBA if he reaches that level. Not saying that he can't get better. Not saying he can't be smarter instead of trying to develop athletic attributes, because that's less likely. So yeah, he has to adapt to man-to-man. He did not do that in college, and that already puts him at a disadvantage, or most would already assume that's a disadvantage. But yeah, just off of physical measurables, athleticism, speed, quickness, flexibility, he's below average in all those things at the NBA level. So that's gonna be harmful. But again, if he can shoot the mess out the ball, shoot 40+% from beyond the arc, and make it when he's contested too, then he's gonna get a look. And that's what he has to bet on.
Could I use this logic? If Duncan Robinson can make it in the league, Buddy Boeheim has a chance to make it in the league?
Oh yeah, he definitely has a chance. I definitely will say that Duncan, he's not a great defender, but I think he does have more height and a little bit more of a physical advantage than Buddy. And again, like Duncan's no special physical specimen on the NBA court, but even then he has like a slight height and length advantage just based off just raw eye test than Buddy Boeheim. But yeah, he definitely has a chance. I'm not gonna say it's unlikely, or it's not highly likely, but it's not impossible at all. He just has to, again, shoot the mess out the ball and be just a smart player.
Cranky Hugh disagrees down here. He's making
I disagree as well, but Hugh, you go ahead.
Hugh,
no, go Drew.
Oh, I think that Duncan Robinson, again, I agree with TJ as a few more physical attributes, not that are greatly give him a better chance, but he's just a slight edge on top of the fact that he went to a great situation on a team that has a lot of really good defenders. So they can afford to have a guy out there who maybe isn't shut down when you've got Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, Oladipo was a good defender before he got hurt. I mean, there's a lot of other defensive options on there. So if you have a guy that the floor spacing, you can kind of find a way to hide him. So sure, Buddy goes to a team that can afford to stick him in a corner and go, hey, just stand there and watch this guy and don't mess it up. Sure. But if you're like, hey, get in a stance and guard somebody off ball, and then when he has the ball, do not find yourself on the ground. I just don't see it. I mean, I think I don't know. I think I went to a high school where our motto was defend or die. So playing a zone does not fit into that. I think hiding in a zone is great. It's a kind of a gimmick, and it works in college because there's bigger skill gaps. But in the NBA, where everybody can shoot, everybody can put the ball on the floor, for the most part, I don't see it. But that's just me.
I will say that Duncan Robinson has an unbelievable ability to go from the catch to the shot. The exchange from the catch to the shot is just lightning quick. That's extraordinary. And so that's why Duncan Robinson, I think, is in the league. And I don't know if Buddy Boeheim has that same skill. Okay, so moving on is a Penn State guy, former Penn State guy who I saw play a lot. And when he played for Penn State, he was definitely one of the more athletic players on the team. And they would have probably, not for the COVID year, that team was definitely headed toward the tournament and it would have been interesting. But when they didn't go, that team all went different directions. And then Isaiah moved on to Iowa State, and he, I know for a fact, is not coming back, even though he has another year of eligibility left. So, Hugh, what do you think of Isaiah Brockington?
Yeah, Brockington, his athleticism impressed me. I think he's definitely can be an NBA level athlete. He's 6'4", 196 pounds, 90 kilograms. He had a really good year this year, 17 points, 7 rebounds, 1.5 assists per game. I think the 7 rebounds was pretty impressive as a guard as well. Really unafraid to get in there, collect rebounds, help out his bigs who might be boxing out bigger boys. But I think the biggest concern for him is his decision-making with the ball. He gets out of control a lot. He has a negative assist to turnover ratio, average 2 turnovers a game, and only 1.5 assists. So if you're bringing him in as the lead guard, that's the biggest concern right away. But he's strong. He's a very strong physical guard, plays tough, loves going left-handed. They ran a lot of actions after going back and looking at some of his clips on Synergy. A lot of stuff, getting him refusing screens, getting to his left hand, or like coming off a pin and then curling into the lane with his left hand. So I liked how they were using him and getting him the ball, and he was one of their primary scorers, really. So getting him to help put the ball in the hole for Iowa State. But sometimes he does attack too far and gets out of control, jumps up in the air to make a pass, and all of a sudden that passing window's closed, or he'll be maybe telegraph a pass that he gets in the lane, and all of a sudden that guy, the shooter who should be in the corner, is not there anymore. The defense is one step ahead of him every so often. So that was the concern. But I love how hard he plays. Like I said, great rebounding numbers. He does have really good. I saw that on Synergy. I'm impressed with his late shot clock makes. He bailed them out of a lot of possessions. He had some big games, and in those games, especially the game against West Virginia, he had 35 points and no turnovers in that game, which I would be showing every NBA team if I was him. That was just saying, here you go, sit down and watch this. This is why you should draft him. He bailed them out a lot of possessions in some big games this season. And looking at Synergy as well, he's in the 88th percentile points per possession as a pick and roll ball handler, which surprised me with the turnovers, but he was only as a pick and roll ball handler 7% of his offensive possessions. So that's another thing I'd be talking up and saying, look, if you put me in pick and rolls, I can make the right decisions so long as I have the right people around me. He had a couple big games. He had a 29.10 rebound game against Iowa at the start of the season. They're obviously another powerhouse, really good program. So I like him. I like his intangibles. I like the way he plays the game, but obviously needs to tidy up his decision-making if he wants to get to the NBA and stick in the NBA.
Yeah, at both schools, he definitely wasn't a point guard. This year it was freshman Tyrese Hunter, and Penn State had several point guards while he was there, but he's always been a wing, but caught my eye at Penn State with its athleticism, and this year he blossomed on a team that really needed somebody to step up as a scorer. Next guy on our list is has several relatives who played in the NBA and or are playing in the NBA, and that's Peter Nance of Northwestern. Drew, what do you think of Pete Nance?
Yeah, so I actually hadn't really been aware of Pete Nance at all. I knew of him just because, they hear he was mentioned due to his, all the family members he has that are in or were in the NBA. So I went back and kind of looked into him. And I think the best way to describe his game is I think he's a jack of all trades player. I don't think he really excels at any one facet of the game to a really high level. I do think he deserves a little bit more credit as a passer, or at least as a big man passer than he gets. I mean, 2.7 assists as a big on a Northwestern team that isn't super talented, I think is a really solid number. I mean, one of the games that I just was really impressed at how all around he was against Nebraska. And again, Nebraska is not the highest level of competition either, but I mean, he was 55% from the field, 66% from 3, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, only 2 turnovers, 14 points. I just went back and watched that game. I was like, this guy has a pretty good feel out there on the basketball court. His shooting splits definitely hint at some stretch 4 potential. I mean, he was almost 50% from the field and 45% from 3 on about 3 attempts per game. And he shot, I believe, 36, 35% last year. So while he's not out here, using the three ball as his primary weapon. It's definitely something he has in his arsenal, and he's had it for the last 2 seasons. So I think that's something that can kind of be a swing skill for him if he wants to make his way to an NBA roster, is that he has the ability to step out and hit a three at a pretty solid clip, and he's done so for the past 2 years. The issue that, I think you have with a guy that can have that kind of jack of all trades notion is that at the NBA, you can always say for these guys coming in, take whatever you rank them as average, maybe drop them down a peg for their first few years in the NBA. So does that mean he's slightly below average at everything once he gets to the league? That could be something that maybe puts people off. I like him as an overall player. I think his NBA fit is going to be centered around his success as a guy who does all the small things well. If he can be a pick and roll, pick and pop finisher, if he can use that passing ability to create for others, finding cutters, passing out of the high post, and if he can maintain some of that efficiency, I don't think he's going to come to the NBA and shoot 50% from the field and 45% from three, but I think he could definitely come in and hit some shots when he's open, stretch the court a little bit, find the right people through passing action, and just make the right basketball reads. I mean, there's a lot of high-level basketball that's come through his family, so I have to believe that some of that from his brother, from his dad, has rubbed off on him, and is part of the reason why he is such an efficient, kind of just solid basketball player.
Yeah, very solid basketball player with a nice stroke and is 6'10", and one of the best pick and roll players in the country.
Exactly.
Whether it was rolling, slipping, or picking and popping, he was all around the 90th percentile. And overall, he was 93rd percentile as a pick and roll player, not handler as the screener. So yeah, Pete's under the radar. I think he has the option to go back. I could see Pete coming back, having a big senior year, and maybe making himself a lock for the second round, maybe even sneak into the end of the end of the first round.
I do believe that he has maintained eligibility, but I think he also entered the transfer portal, if I'm not mistaken.
Did he?
One of the guys, when we were going through here, he may have.
Well, that coming to Point Loma. Going to Point Loma Nazarene next year. He's getting ready for the NBA.
It was just a day ago when I was going through here, and I was in my last
same path as Dalton. What was Dalton's last name?
Dalton Holmes.
Yeah, he just he's declaring for the 2022 draft, maintaining eligibility, but he's also entered the transfer portal.
I did not know that. Probably the 4 longest hours of my life was scouting Dalton Holmes.
You didn't like it?
Not really. That's just a joke, Dalton. I know you're a regular listener.
I like Pete Nance.
I do too. So next guy we're talking about is a guy who is a very older senior, but really stood out, especially toward the end of this season. But he's really been a kind of a go-to scorer for Miami for the past 2 years. And I'm talking about Cameron McGusty. TJ, what's your take on McGusty?
Yeah, Cameron saved his best for last. He's a 6-year redshirt senior. He's going to turn 25 in September. And yeah, he's one of the oldest guys that has a chance to get drafted in this year's upcoming draft. And yeah, he averaged 18 points per game. He averaged about 5 rebounds, a couple assists, a couple steals. Obviously, Miami had a very good tournament, and he was a big reason for that. But someone that did well, which is really good. He put those numbers up, but he's much older than much of the competition, has had a lot of time to figure himself out and get very acclimated to the college game during his redshirt year, during the years in Miami. So yeah, I think he has a chance. I like his athleticism. He's not a below average athlete at all. His athleticism pops when he creates his own shot, sometimes when he gets a rebound. He can drive to the basket without a ball screen. He did that a couple times here and there, and is a willing pull-up shooter. He had the license to just create and try to get a bucket for Miami. He also was really good on on guarded shots from the catch. He ranked in the 86th percentile, which is pretty interesting, that he's really good at making shots that were contested in the half court off the catch, and not as good on open shots, but you'd assume that he would make more open shots than guarded when it comes to the NBA if he gets that look. But only hang up is that I just don't know what he is exactly at 6'5", 190. Solid athleticism, nothing special. He can shoot, but he's not a really good shooter. He's not really blowing my eye or popping off the screen in terms of as a defender, not much of a ball handler. I just don't know what sort of role he fits exactly. Where he's decent at pretty much everything. Like he's pretty capable of doing a whole lot of different things, but he's not particularly great or good at one particular skill. So I think that's sort of what he has to figure out, what is going to be his calling card when he gets to a higher level in the professional levels, be trying to get to the league. Right now, I think he's probably an undrafted player that has to grind his way to get a chance in the NBA.
Yeah, I would agree. Think about it though. If he was a first round pick, his rookie contract would expire when he was 29 years old. His first real contract would be at 29. Wow. McGusty's a bucket getter. That's what his skill is. All right. So next guy on our list is a guy who's been, we talked about him very early in the year on the podcast, is Gabe Brown from Michigan State. He is kind of an enigma.
Yeah, Rich, I think enigma is I think enigma both is applicable and maybe almost not, in the sense that I think this is a guy that has one skill that puts him on the NBA radar, and that's the shooting. That's just his 3-point shooting. When you just look at the box score or, his stats for his career, really nothing really jumps off the page outside of that 3-point percentage. And so that's his NBA key X factor skill, if you would, is going to be that. He shot 38% for his college career, and he was 38% on 5.5 attempts per game this season. He did have some really big shooting performances that helped keep them in games. I mean, against Duke in the tournament, he was 66% for 18 points on pretty good volume that game. But he had 2 rebounds, 1 block, and that was it. So he doesn't really impact the game, at least in the box score, outside of, being able to hit from 3. I think at the next level, and even at the college level, creating his own shot has been a problem. I don't really see a great ball handler or an explosive perimeter player. I think catch and shoot threes are his specialty. He does move well in transition. Like, I think if he can get down the court on a break and spot up in a corner, he's really great. That's something where, like, translates at any level, any type of basketball. And he does it really well. I do think he moves, like I said, he moves well laterally. He is 6'7", has a decent, kind of wiry frame to him. So I think being at a school like Michigan State under an Izzo for 4 years, I think defensively he knows how to play defense. I don't project him as like an on-ball stopper, but I think he can fit into a team scheme. I think he can defend. I don't think he's going to get overly exposed on that end, but I just don't really see anything else that sets this guy apart for me. I mean, he has little to no playmaking during his college career. He averaged 0.6 assists for his career. He, I think, averaged like 2, maybe 3 rebounds a game for his career. And I just think when you look at it, it's like, was he such a good shooter that's going to get him on draft radars? I don't really know. So when I totally agree that he's an enigma, and that, maybe there's some elements to his game that haven't been fully unleashed yet. And maybe he gets to the NBA and all of a sudden we see him appear as a dominant on-ball defender, or a great playmaker, or he showcases a mid-range game, something like that. And when I say maybe not enigma, is like, well, we know what he is, and that's a guy who can hit a 3 and, likes to get out in transition and catch and shoot. So I think Gabe Brown, like, has a skill set that works. The problem is I think it's one skill set, and I don't know how valuable that is, given that there's so many other things that other guys do better, and they can shoot to somewhat of a comparable level, maybe.
Yeah, I think what I meant by enigma is Gabe Brown will put up 20 points one night and put up 2 the next night.
100%.
But I wouldn't call him wiry. I actually think he has a nice NBA body, and good and athleticism. He's not too old. Okay, he can shoot, and he has the athleticism. So he has all those things going for him. So that's a lot of critical boxes that are checked. You're right, though. He's limited. Is he limited because he can't do it, or is he limited because Tom Izzo didn't let him do it? Yeah. We don't know that. NBA teams will find that out in private workouts. They're going to have him handle the ball. They're going to, and do stuff like that. But your analysis is spot on. It's just a question of, have we seen all we've seen of Gabe Brown, or is there more? I
wouldn't be shocked if he got to like an NBA workout or a team, and all of a sudden they saw him out of nowhere show out this great like pull up mid range game because he has a nice shooting touch. He's a great free throw shooter, and I wouldn't be shocked at all. But like you said, is it because Izzo didn't let him, or is it because like he can't do it? And so it would be really interesting. I think this is a guy that could in a couple of years from now make us all look really foolish. Right. Maybe, but, who knows?
With a nice body for a wing, and with a nice athleticism, and he's a decent defender and a decent shooter. He's got, like I said, he's got a lot of things. A lot of the boxes are checked. So,
question for Drew.
Yeah,
can Gabe Brown do for the Bucks what Bobby Portis does?
No, he's not that big. He's not that big.
No, he's not that.
Not
yeah,
big
I
enough.
know.
I
think
like
Gabe Brown 6'7". Rich, would you say like 6'7"?
Yeah. Bobby Portis like played.
Bobby's
center.
like 6'10".
Yeah, he played center at Arkansas.
I don't think that Gabe Brown has that. To be honest, has like kind of that nastiness in him that Bobby Portis does, to where Bobby Portis is going to get down on who's going to go down there and bang for rebounds and like just kind of play hard. I just don't see that in Gabe Brown.
Or break his teammate's jaw.
Oh yeah, we punched Mirotic in the face. Sent Mirotic packing back to Europe. Never came back after a couple of years.
That's what I'll be doing that to Drew if we're in the same room right now.
Oh,
I was not. Oh, I wasn't muted. Sorry.
Oh, Hugh.
You couldn't hit me because I'm too far down.
Is it because I like the Warriors, man? By the way, Warriors 84-85, 2 minutes to go in the third.
Wow.
Draymond got ejected on a weak call, so it's gonna be a good finish to that game.
Interesting. All right. So our last player. Oh, anybody?
I was just gonna say, I think a comp I thought of was Dorian Finney-Smith, who I mentioned with the Mavericks. I think that's a bit better in terms of who we should look at.
That's a good call, TJ. I think that's really good
comparison to Gabe Brown.
Yeah,
I like that. I like that very much. And Dorian, I think that's if I remember correctly, Dorian Finney-Smith couldn't shoot a lick.
No, not nearly as well as Gabe Brown could. Gabe Brown's a better shooter for sure.
Right. Yeah, Dorian Finney-Smith has become a better shooter each year in the league.
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay, so last guy on our list, and hopefully will be our guest on our show next week, is Jaron Rhoden, 6'5" wing from Seton Hall. He's been on my radar for 3 seasons. He emerged as a sophomore as a long, athletic player who is capable in contributing in a lot of ways. Now, the thing about Rhoden is I wouldn't call him a disappointment, but he hasn't quite made the progress that I would like to see. So, for example, he's improved as a 3-point shooter in the sense like this year he hit a career high 38, but he shot less than 34% from deep. He also did not have a good year turnover assist wise. He ended up with a lot more turnovers than assists this year. And as a result, his career assist turnover ratio now is below 1. It's 0.92. So the other issue I have with Rhoden, and I don't quite understand this one because he is got nice size, nice length, nice athleticism. And I suppose it probably comes down to he doesn't really have a floater game. He doesn't really have a post game. So he's never been very good around the basket. This year, he made less than 38% of his shots within 7 feet in the half court. So think about that. 38% from 7 feet, any type of shot. I'm not talking drives. I'm talking about any shot. He only made about 1 out of 3 from 7 feet. So that is not good. Now, what does he do well? He's very good in transition, and he shows a lot of promise as an off-ball shooter. His strength right now, even though he's not super explosive with the ball in his hands, he does a very good job of creating space with ball fakes, jump stops, step backs, and he's very efficient from mid-range. 2 years ago, or was it this year? I think it was 2 years ago, he was like close to the 90th percentile on mid-range shots. But over the past 2 seasons, he's made 42% of his half-court jumpers between 17 feet and the three-point line. So that's a pretty good percentage. He's also been a good foul shooter, making over 80% for the past 2 years. And this year, he ranked at the 80, despite only shooting 34% from deep, he ranked at the 88th percentile on catch-and-shoot jumpers. So, and I also think that Roden isn't spectacular on the defensive end, but he has the tools to be a better than average defender. I would say his biggest issue right now is he's kind of a step late when recovering. He's a willing help defender, but for some reason he has trouble getting back to the play in time a lot of times. So I think all comes down to awareness. So if he can somehow improve in that, it could also be instinctual. I don't know, but I'm thinking that he can improve in that area. And lastly, he's a very good rebounder, averaging almost 7 rebounds a game for 2 straight seasons. So what I see in Roden is a wing with good size and athleticism. He needs to improve as a shooter, but yeah, I that could be the big key, and because I do think he can be a solid defender. So I think we're looking at a 3-and-D type of prospect. Right now, he's not looking to be drafted, but think about that he was one of the top performers at Pitt, and if he somehow gets an invite to one of the other combines, who knows? He could, rise up the ladder, kind of like Terrence Davis did a couple years ago.
Yeah, Roden, like you said, he didn't have a huge season in terms of showing awesome improvement. But he still had a good year. He still played well. He still averaged 15.5 points. But yeah, I think if I was him or if I was in his circle, I would also just really wanted to hone in on defense, because let's say the shooting doesn't come around somehow. If he can be guarding 3s, 2s, 1s, switchable, that would be very helpful in terms of making sure that he can carve out a role. Because I think his size, his athleticism should give him, he has the tools to be switchable like that.
Yes, I agree. So those were our top 10 seniors. We omitted several players because we had talked about them at length in previous shows, including Ochai Agbaji, who's probably going to be a lottery pick, Jamari Bouye of San Francisco, and Stanley Amudier of Arkansas, and both of those were recently on our show. Some other players we could have included in this group of, borderline second round players, or seniors, I should say, would be Darius Days of LSU, Drew Peterson of USC, Taz Sherman of West Virginia, Javon Freeman Liberty of DePaul, Tevin Brown of Murray State, Kibe Aluma of Virginia Tech, and Justin Bean of Utah State. So let's move on to our interview with Andrew Heath, who I talked with Hugh and I just a few days ago about training and what goes on at workouts and so forth. Our special guest this week is Andrew Heath, a former professional basketball player and the founder of Andrew Heath Basketball. Drew has a master's degree in sports business management, is a former NBA Yale school coach, and is currently a coach and trainer at a high school in the San Francisco area. Welcome, Drew.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Our pleasure. This has been in the works for a while. I'm glad we finally got to pull it off. All right. So before you got into coaching and training, tell us a little bit about yourself. What types of things did you do at the Yale School, and what is Andrew Heath Basketball? Which, by the way, before you start, I'm going to say you can find out at, I believe, andrewheath.com. Is that correct?
It's andrewheathbasketball.com.
Okay.
And then the same for Instagram and Twitter. It's just Andrew Heath Basketball. One word. Yeah. But yeah, no, so I was in China for 3 years, playing and coaching. And yeah, at the NBA Yale School. So the NBA does a great job of expanding the game globally, opening up different academies. So this was one of their locations they had in Beijing. They had another location in Shanghai. And it was from kids as young to 4 years old up to graduating high school seniors. And the talent level kind of varied from there as well, too. So we had some kids who were good enough to go play collegiately or at the university level in China. We had a bunch of kids who was their first time getting introduced to the sport of basketball. The grassroots basketball in China, I think, is still developing. They definitely do put out like high level talent, good national team stuff. But after that, the drop off is pretty significant. So you don't see a typical like 5th grade, like viral kid over there, like you might see here in the States in an AAU tournament or something like that. Once they kind of see you're really good or you're on a path for stardom or like the NBA Yao or a Yao Ming level, they kind of pull you out of school, put you into a special academy, and that's kind of your path for the next 10 to 15 years.
Like the old Soviet Union.
Right. Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So was the Yale school similar to the NBA Global Academies that they have?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So we weren't exactly the same, but we did partner up with them. So I had the opportunity to work with a lot of those players and coaches. I'm forgetting on her name, but the young woman who was drafted by the New York Liberty a few years back from China, she was 6'8", 6'9", 6'10". So it was able to like brush shoulders with those players as well, in conjunction with the people learning how to bounce pass and chest pass and all that stuff.
Okay. And was Yao actually involved? I mean, did he have some?
Yes. So obviously he's definitely the most popular Chinese player in the history of the game. And he is definitely a superstar over there. He's the current commissioner of the CBA over there, their top professional league.
Right.
And he was very much involved. Got a chance to meet his wife and his daughter, who are both very tall in their own rights. His wife is about 6'6", and his daughter, when I met her, I believe she was 10 years old, I think. And she must have been 5'7", 5'8" at 10.
Wow.
So a very tall family.
All right. I'm going to pass you over to Hugh for the next question.
Cool.
Yeah, Drew, what was your experience like playing overseas, and can you run us through the places you did play?
Yeah. So the team I played for was called the Beijing Panthers. It was in one of the Chinese scene out there is very kind of like the Wild Wild West. So the team I consisted of, we played in a league called Wild Ball Leagues, which were basically rich Chinese businessmen would form these leagues and tournaments and just host them for weeks, months at a time. But it was top level competition. We'd have guys from like EuroLeague come over and play. I was fortunate enough, my coach while I played over there was Rodney Hurd, who's currently working in the NBA with the Milwaukee Bucks, and he's had stints in other spots. But it is that similar experience of other guys that played overseas. You are by yourself. You do kind of have to vouch for yourself at times. Performance talks, which is, I think, different if you're playing university and whatever your home country is, or I think a lot of times guys watch NBA, you'll see like a plugger or like a veteran leader, like a Rondo who still might be on a team, plays 20 minutes, maybe gets 5 points, 6 assists, a few rebounds. That doesn't really exist overseas if you're a foreigner. You have to produce whatever it is. So if you're not scoring, you better be getting rebounds. Or if you're not doing that, you better be getting like some highlight blocks. Because your plus minus and all that other stuff doesn't really translate as much as you're our foreign import. We're paying you to score 20 points, get a double-double, or have some off the backboard blocks. We don't really care if you're doing the dirty intangibles. We have the local guys to kind of be here to do that.
Do those. How many import slots were on your team?
We were lucky. We had about 4 or 5, depending on the tournament.
Wow.
So yeah, that's a lot compared to some other leagues and countries where you might have 1 or 2, and then I know some other places have rules where you can only play so many at a time. So you might be able to have 3 or 4, but only 2 of them can play at a time, or there's a certain quarter number you can play. But no, it was fun. And my teammates consisted of guys from different African countries, different European countries. It was only me and another American that were pretty much on the team. So it was interesting also just seeing the different style of plays from different countries and what people thought was good offense or good defense, depending on what part of the world you're from. No, it was very interesting. And just hearing the different debates, played with and against a lot of Serbian guys. they really don't think a lot of our NBA stars can play in EuroLeague. So there were many lengthy debates on Steph Curry's good, but he's not EuroLeague good, or so-and-so is good, but if we throw him in like a France versus whatever game or league, he's not going to produce as well.
Serbians are crazy about basketball.
Oh yeah, no, they live and die by it. They breathe it. They definitely know their stuff, and they produce some top level guys too.
Oh yeah, definitely. In fact, if they would have had everybody healthy this year, their national team would have been in the running for the gold medal for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to coaching and training as far as prospects go. When coaches, when these kids coming up in the draft go to a workout, what are what are evaluators looking to see? What particular things are they looking to see in these workouts and discover?
It's interesting now that we're moving towards like positionless basketball.
Mm-hmm.
A few years ago, you would see this is a guard workout, or we're going to kind of pair you up with another 6'9", 6'10", 200, whatever pound guy. Now you might see more wings playing with more traditional posts, or more posts going in some guard workouts. And they're going to want to see, even if you are 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", can you shoot? Can you put it on the floor? How are you on the wing? And a lot of it isn't going to be nothing crazy. And I know a lot of people with like IG now, they see all these different cone drills and all these other things, and how many combination moves can you do. A lot of it is just, quick decision plays, one dribble pull-up, spot shooting, some basic fundamental passing stuff, 3-on-3, 2-on-2 stuff. So they're really trying to see how you can play in an NBA system, because it is different from the college game, and it is different positions. I've been fortunate enough to be working with KJ Williams, who just finished up at Murray State. One of the things we're working on with him is he was pretty much the 5 this past year for him at Murray State.
Right.
The scouts and other coaches were saying he needs to drop about 15 pounds to be more of a stretch 4 or 3. He's listed at 6'10", which I think is a generous 6'10". But yeah, he's not going to be banging with the Embiids and the Jokic's. Can you be a 3-and-D guy? Can you hit that corner 3? Can you just, a player's closing out at you, pump fake one dribble, shoot it, make a play or something else, which I've personally seen him do in workouts. But a scout, it's like, hey, I haven't seen you do that at Murray State too much. Let's just see you in this workout. So they're not making him do 4 Euro steps and a spin move and like a reverse layup like that. It's like, no. This is our system. Let's see if you can work in these spots, and then kind of evaluate you off of that.
One thing you were mentioning the type of workouts. I just got done talking with Jabari Walker just about a week ago. And I asked him how he was preparing for the draft, and he didn't really talk about, I don't know who his trainer is, but apparently he has this virtual reality thing where he actually can be put in team situations.
Oh, wow.
In virtual reality. I don't know anything about it, but I certainly would love to hear about it. Now, we have to remember this may not be readily available. Jabari's father played in the NBA. So he might have some resources that your average prospect doesn't have. Yeah. So I'm going to pass it back to Hugh.
Drew, you need to get a VR headset, mate. Start throwing some people in those during a workout. I want to ask a bit of a deeper breakdown of those workouts. Sort of how long are they usually? What drills, what activities are you going through in a group setting as well as an individual sort of pre-draft workout setting?
Yeah, they're going to be about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And it's funny when you talk to like some of the older guys that have gone through the process, it used to be like a semi-conditioning workout as well too. I do know there are a few teams who do kind of put you through the ringer physically. Like I know the Miami Heat are like infamous for, we're going to see how you can shoot. We'll also see how far your like body can go as well too. So back in the day, they used to make guys play like 1-on-1 full court, 2-on-2 full court to really see if you had the legs and stuff. That's not the case too much anymore. Kind of like I was alluding to before, it's getting to the point where everybody can kind of shoot, everybody can handle. So they're going to want to just see basic, just like really like fundamental stuff. Can you do those basic drills? If you are more of a point guard, they're going to see how you read and react to pick and roll stuff. And depending on how high of a profile player you are, if you're the projected number 2 point guard to be drafted, they're probably putting you through like pick and roll stuff against like a coaching staff, or like that player's agent has probably like heavily requested, we'll do the workout, but just against your coaching staff. If you're like a fringe late first round, second round guy, you might be playing 3-on-3 with like other draft hopefuls, but going through those same workouts. So we're going to do 3-on-3 pick and roll situations. We're going to do 3-on-2 fast break stuff and see how you guys read and react to things. And just really just putting them through like different situations and different positions that they've usually been in their college career and team. But then at the same time too, okay, cool. We know you're Joe Harris coming out of college. You're Duncan Robinson. Let's see how a good shooter you are. You're known for shooting. Let's put it to the test. You're a super freak athlete. Let's throw you some lobs. Let Zach Levine. Let's get you down the floor to see how athletic you are in person. Because even though we are moving towards like a heavy analytic phase, I think in sports, a lot of those scouts still just want the eye test. Let me see it firsthand. Let me see how you move. Let me see how you bang with the other guys.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Drew, I'm going to throw, you talked about KJ, but I'm going to throw a couple other big guys and just curious how you would handle them. Now, these guys are extreme. So, but I'm just thinking of Purdue's guys. You have Zach Edey, who's just, Yao-like size.
Yep.
He's not in this draft, but his teammate, Travion Williams, who's heavy but very gifted skill-wise, excellent passer, excellent rebounder, has very nice post moves and some mid-range game. So if you were working with those two guys, just give me an example of a couple things that you for each of things you'd have them do.
I think if we're working with the bigger fellow, the guy that's more like
Zach Edey.
Yeah, the guy with the Yao size. His passing off the high post and perimeter, and then his lateral movement. Because I think definitely with that size, he is going to be banging with the Embiids and the Jokic's, and those guys do play on the perimeter. Can you move laterally? How does that look? If Jokic gives you one ball fake, do you go flying the opposite direction, or can I put you out there for 10, 12 minutes just to stick with them? The other guy, I would see how his touch is, to see how, okay, you're banging down low, you're a big guy. Will that translate to NBA players and NBA physicality? I think there's been a bunch of players over the years that were very physically dominating in college basketball. I think Tyler Hansbrough always comes up a lot. Just a beast at UNC. And I think a lot of his game at UNC was just grit. I'm stronger. I'm going to fight for everything. Doesn't translate necessarily. And he was coming in the league when like Ron Artest still was in the league. Because some other guys was just like, I'm the same size as you. This isn't going to work. What else can you do? So same thing. Keep your post moves. We'll still work on that. Can you hit a 15-foot jump shot? Can you hit something coming off a catch? Can you hit a flare screen shot? And then can you handle from that position too? And working on passing out of that as well. He can finish at the rim, but he's not a super freak athlete. So those gaps are going to close a lot quicker. You drive, you pump fake, you get in the paint. Can you dish out? What does that look like? And then same thing, one hand passing as well too. You get in there, one hand, left hand pass. Now the way the defenses are played, can you get that hook pass to the corner, right? Both sides,
right?
Which is big for like corner threes. So the same thing, can you hit the corner three? Your coach is probably going to put you in a position where you're going to shoot a corner three at some point. So can you knock that down? So yeah.
I spoke to last year at the combine with EJ Liddell. And are you familiar with EJ's game?
Mhm.
All right, he's 6'6", about 230, and he could do a little bit of everything. He's an undersized power forward. And so he gave me a surprising answer. Now he ended up pulling out of last year's draft and he's back in this year. But the question I asked him, I said, what are you going to work on in the off season? I said, are you going to work on shooting off the dribble? I think that was a specific question, shooting off the dribble, because that was the one thing that seemed to be missing from his game.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, no, I'm gonna focus on getting better at what I already do. Is that an unusual approach?
Yes and no. I think so using him and then also like using KJ. I think what KJ did this year at Murray State worked for him, right? He was the conference player of the year, led Murray
leading
State
leading scorer in the conference, I believe.
Led Murray State to one of the best years in school history. That's just not going to work. And if the NBA is your end goal, dream goal, I think there has to be a conversation with yourself or someone has it with you of you're going to need to do something different. Maybe don't totally abandon what has gotten you the attention, but in KJ's situation, you need to drop 15 pounds. So with that being said, you're not gonna be able to bang down low as much anymore. You're gonna have to do other stuff. With EJ's case, sure. I mean, and that's the thing. You do hear the story. We hear more of the stories of I stuck to my guns and it worked, right? Whether it's like a Pat Beverly, like this is who I am, right? I show up every day. I know who I am. I'm gonna be who I am. We hear all those stories. We don't hear a lot of the stories where it's just like, I didn't work on my one dribble pull-up, and now I'm playing in France, which no knock against anyone playing in France. That's completely fine. But it's like, if your dream is to get drafted by the Nuggets or something else, maybe work on your one dribble pull-up. Because we don't hear the other side of those stories where you didn't adapt or change your game and it didn't work out for you. And you even see it with guys that are currently in the league, right? Like someone that's had a 12-year career, how they started playing year 1, 2, 3 is not the same how they're playing year 10, 11, 12.
Except for Ben Simmons.
Oh, I knew it was coming. Rich, I knew it was coming. I was gonna see if we could get through the interview without saying his name. All right, let me go to the next question before Rich gets on a Ben Simmons spiel. Drew, of all the sort of skills that we want to grow as basketball players, getting faster, quicker, jumping higher, obviously dribbling, shooting, passing, rebounding, defending, what do you think in that pre-draft process is the easiest for players to develop? And what are some of the most difficult skills for players to develop in that period of time?
I think if you can't defend, especially if you can't defend your position, you're not going to pick that up overnight. If you can't shoot, you can get lucky, right? Like even if you go to like your local YMCA or something, there's that one game you play in, that guy hits 20 shots that one day, right? You play him the next day, he airballs everything. But for that one day, he made all the shots. So it's the same thing at every level. You can get lucky on shooting, maybe some other things. But if you honestly can't keep your man in front of you on Monday, when you wake up Tuesday, that's not going to change for you. So I think that's the hardest to like develop and hide.
So for those guys that can't do that, are you working on lateral quickness with them? Are you working on core strength?
Yeah,
how are you trying to get their feet quicker, I guess, or their
definitely. I mean, we're doing all the bands, resistance bands, even like some aquatic training, getting in the pool, doing some of that resistance to be easy on the joints. But there's still only so much you can kind of do within a certain period of time. So yeah, I think that's definitely the hardest. I think the easiest is actually like your communication and attitude, which I think goes a long way. The same stuff we've been hearing since middle school, elementary school, preschool about your body language, communication, it applies at the next level as well. You see a bunch of guys, Draymond Green, who's probably extended his career because he's a great communicator. He's talking all the time on defense. He's running the show from that back position, telling them where to go. He's basically the point guard on offense too, running the show there. Not the most athletic, not the best shooter, not the best dribbler, pretty good defender, but just a great communicator, great attitude. So coaches will pick up on that too. So if you happen to be that guy that can't play defense, talk your ass off.
Of all the skills that Hugh mentioned, are there any that are like I've seen a lot of guys, Al Horford, for example, just an example, somebody who never shot threes in college and for most of his pro career. And then all of a sudden now he's a great, not a great, but a good 3-point shooter. Yeah. So I feel like shooting is something you definitely can improve upon over time. But of all those things like dribbling, passing, defending, getting faster, jumping higher, are there any that you think are really, I mean, if that's the way you are, that's probably the way you're going to be. You're not going to be able to improve upon it much?
In terms of, is there something that like...
Long-term, I'm talking long-term.
If there's one thing that you should just focus on improving? No.
My question is, in general, we're talking dribbling, passing, rebounding, defending, shooting, speed, quickness, verticality. Of all those things, is there one thing that is really, really difficult, even over the long run, to get better at?
Oh, yes. I would say your athletic ability. It definitely can be improved. But if you can't jump, you can't jump, right? If you're not fast, you're not fast. You can definitely improve it, right? You can definitely take seconds off your 40 time. You can definitely add inches to your vertical. But Steve Nash was never going to be John Morant, no matter how many squats or cleans he did. Some of that is God-given ability. You can definitely improve on it and work on it. But there's definitely a ceiling. A genetic ceiling. Very realistic ceiling. Yeah, where it's kind of like you're saying with Al Horford. You see a lot of big guys. You can develop your shot. You can extend your range. You could, with experience and playing time, improve your passing and court vision. And then you add in father time. There's like a short window where you can like increase your athletic ability, right? Like Chris Paul's not getting more athletic. He is who he is.
I can second what Drew said. I was trying to improve my vertical my whole college career, and I think it only went the other way. I think I was my most bouncy my freshman year, and now 5 years in, I barely even get to the rim at this point.
That can't be true. That can't be true. You're 6'8", right?
I just stay by the 3-point line now.
There you go. Hey, right? Knock him down.
He's being self-deprecating. I'm pretty sure you can dunk. So I'm going to get back to my original question is, players often skip the combine and then they end up doing the same things in private workouts. Is there an advantage to doing that? Why do we see that done? And if they refuse to do the same things in private workouts, which I know some of them do, because a lot of them will only do like one-on-one shooting drills and won't do it against another player, So when they do refuse to do those things, even in private workouts, how do teams react to that?
Well, not to bring up a taboo topic, as I've learned. Let's say you're Ben Simmons about to get drafted. Your jump shot might go viral if you're shooting against somebody else. You'll heavily hey, I'll work out for you guys, private workout, just me and the coaching staff. And then same thing, the only guys requesting the private workouts are the top guys. You're late first round, your second round, you're even like middle first round. You can't really just request hey, I just want to work out in front of Danny Ainge, unless Danny Ainge wants to see you personally. Where Ben Simmons or the number 2 pick can just call up, hey, got a workout coming. My agent thinks it's best that I just work out just with the team. And if they think you're going to change the franchise, they'll listen. They'll, okay, cool. We think you're going to turn this thing around. We'll work out privately. And then the same thing, it's not kind of like you were alluding to, the formula or the workout isn't different, right? The coaches don't have a separate workout we're going to do the same drills. It's just going to be just us. So that's all. And you'll see the same thing with like at the combine, right? You'll see some guys like don't participate.
At least in the game, and at least in the game portion.
Right. And for that same reason, maybe I just had a great, especially if we see a guy that maybe has climbed up the draft board and maybe because he had like a great NCAA tournament or did something spectacular. It's like, let me not like ruin what I've built. Right. Let me sit on what I have. I have this allure right now. You guys think I can shoot? Let's keep that till draft night. Right. Like, cool. Along
those same lines, how about a guy like Shaden Sharp, who's considered was considered a top 5 player in the class of 2022, but he came out to Kentucky early and joined up with the team at mid-semester at Christmas time. And but most people have not seen him play, especially recently. So does he dare restrict his workouts? I mean, how would teams deal with that if he said, well, no, I'm only going to shoot for you, or you're only going to be able to, I'm not going to shoot for you. All I'm going to do is the vertical test and, stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't think that'd be a smart idea. Someone needs to see something, right? At the end of the day, especially if we don't have a lot of game tape or just other insight on you, we're going to need to see something. So even if it's, hey, I'm not competing in the combine games, you need to do some 2-on-2, 3-on-3 stuff, or just group workouts, right? They'll host those where we're not going to play 2-on-2 or 3-on-3. But we are going to have you shoot against this other guy or have you go through these cone drills against this other guy, just to have some foundation to see where you stand.
Okay.
So with that, Drew, each year in the draft, we usually see 1 or 2 guys rise really higher than we thought or fall pretty far. Is that usually due to things that have gone on in private workouts, you think?
Yes, I think it's private workouts. It's also the pre-draft interviews that they do. They might find out some personal things about the player. I was just talking to somebody other day recently where people don't also account for the type of person and the city they might be going to. If you have a history of, I don't know, maybe getting in trouble at school for partying, and the Miami Heat are like, okay, we have a pick. Wow, you've been suspended 3 times during college. Maybe Miami isn't the spot for you to have you come play.
Go to Oklahoma City.
Right, go to Oklahoma City. Or vice versa. The Oklahoma GM might be like, oh, you have an issue with partying. There's nothing to do here. You'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that it definitely is. And I think that's the easy thing to point to. Oh, he didn't shoot well in this. Or you hear the infamous story of Katie not being able to bench 135 at the combine. So those things definitely do affect if it goes up or down. A lot of times they find out something about you personally. They find out something about maybe your best friend has a criminal history. Maybe you have an issue with dealing with money, and we don't want to go into that. So it's definitely a combination of both.
Got it.
All right, here's the last question, Drew. And this kind of goes hand in hand with the feedback I get from players as we're leading up to the process. So how often does a player leave a workout knowing that he's sealed the deal? And the reason why I asked this question, I've had prospects tell me, oh, this team loved me, or this team loved me, or everybody I talk to right now. Even a player today, yeah, it's looking good. Did you get feedback from the league? No. So what do you mean it's looking good?
Right. Yeah.
What's changed? But seriously, why I've had players who swear to God, they're going to be like a top 40 pick and then go undrafted. Is that just in their head, or do teams sometimes not give players a straight deal?
I think it's both. And I think it's a little bit like speed dating, right? You're going through all of these processes and everything, and everyone's just being nice. We're like, oh, you did good. You did great. And of course, you just probably finished your college career, probably went pretty well. You think you did good in the workout. The coach said he did good. Then I did good, right? You said I did good. I thought I did good. This means I get drafted, right? Which is not always the case. And sometimes it is just they're not being honest. Sometimes people don't account for you might have had a good workout, but then the guy after you had a better one.
Right.
Right. Which is sometimes the case. And then sometimes the guys will get drafted by teams they don't even work out for. So you might work out for the Celtics. You might work out for the Celtics, Hawks, Nets, and Lakers. And then the Timberwolves end up drafting you and you never worked out for them. And you're like, well, because everyone talks to each other, right? It's the same thing, good or bad. But yeah, no, if a guy's like, I'm definitely getting drafted, he might have had a good workout, some might have outperformed him, or the coach and GM just didn't have the heart to be like, you shot like crap today. There's no way we're drafting you.
Right.
Best of luck.
Right. So it has a lot to do with what you're saying is everyone's polite, and it has a lot to do with their perception and their ability to read between the lines and so forth and so on. There's some people, might think the glass is half full, and others are going to think the glass is half empty.
Yeah. And then at the same time too, unless it went just horribly wrong, right? Then it's kind of like, okay,
Right.
I know I played like crap. I couldn't defend anybody. I missed all my shots. Then that's a whole different story. But I think a lot of guys walk away being like, oh, like that went well. I'm definitely going to be somewhere called. So.
Right. Yeah. I've learned over the years that asking players where they're going to be drafted is probably the worst possible source you can get that information from.
Everyone's number one, man.
Right. Everybody thinks they're going to get drafted. And yeah. So, all right. Well, Drew, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. It's Andrew Heath, AndrewHeathBasketball.com. And Drew is going to be back with us occasionally, hopefully, to come back and talk to us about training tips and things like that. So we look forward to having you back soon.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on and looking forward to the next time.
And now it's time for our mailbag. Hugh's favorite time of the show, isn't it, Hugh?
I didn't even look at it yet. I just realized.
Okay, so we I knew we were going to run long today, and so I just picked one thing, and this was actually a tweet that I received right after I found out Embiid was going to miss some time. I just did some research, when's he coming back or whatever, and I ran across this article. I don't know who wrote it. I don't remember what site it was on, but it basically was highly critical. Apparently some Toronto announcer, like said that he was happy that Embiid got hurt.
That's not great.
Yeah, if you guys ever looked at my tweets, you'd know what. But anyway,
I think for your mental health, you should just stay away from Twitter for a while.
Oh wait. So this one was great. So I didn't, apparently a Toronto announcer, said some kind of comments on the air that he was, or Embiid didn't deserved it, or he was happy he got hurt. I don't remember exactly how it went. And so I didn't know this. And so I just tweeted out the article. It was about the injury and about the reaction to the injury. And so I just tweeted it out. And you know what? I can remember thinking at the time, you know what? Some idiot is going to tweet me about this. Some Toronto fan is going to tweet me about it. And I'm like, I didn't write the damn article. Why are you tweeting to me about it? And it happened. And it came from Stan Lee. Stan has a total of 13 followers. And the only thing he says in his bio is he enjoys arguing with idiots. Okay, so what does that make you? Seriously, if you have time to do that, what does that make you? And what he tweeted was the picture. Now, if you watch that Toronto game, you'll remember exactly what I'm talking about. Embiid kind of throws like a hip check into Siakam underneath the basket. He should have been boxing out, but instead he kind of plowed in the back of Siakam. But it wasn't, anything that wouldn't happen, if he was sincerely trying to box out. But it looked like he kind of was just trying to give Siakam a shot. But it was no big deal. Nobody got hurt, whatever. And you could argue that he was trying to box out. Okay. And he said, so what Siakam did was intentional, but this wasn't. And no, he's right. What Embiid did looked very intentional, but no harm came from it. It was no big deal. And I never said Siakam intentionally hurt Embiid. But you know what? I will say it right now. He did. He definitely intentionally hurt Embiid. I thought it at the time, and the more I look at it, the more I'm sure he threw that elbow on purpose. And so anybody else want to chime in here?
How do you want to see him punished, Rich?
Siakam or Stan Lee?
Both.
Stan Lee's already living in his own hell, so I don't have to punish him. I'd like to see Siakam be suspended for 5-10 games.
I think if Stan Lee thought that, some banging down low between Siakam and Embiid was intentional and dirty, that's a guy who has started watching basketball just this season and doesn't remember Lambeer getting just absolutely punished by Robert Parrish or the beatings Jordan took against those bad boy Pistons. So I actually didn't see the play live. I was at work at the time, but I mean, I don't know. Like, they're big, and I've always said in the NBA, you got big men making really athletic moves at really high speeds. Like, people are going to get banged around, and I definitely think Siakam hit Embiid a little. It was a little extra. I think he went a little overboard on that one, though.
It's funny too. I was thinking at the time is like, why is any Sixer starter in this game?
Oh, they were up like 30 almost. Weren't they up like 29?
Yeah. And I was thinking, why is any Sixer starter in this game? And 30 seconds after that thought went into my mind, boom, right in the face.
It's Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers was trying to show everybody, see, I'm not going to choke again.
Yeah.
I'm going to run up the score.
That's why
I'm going to win by 30 and you can't talk. Yeah, you can't talk bad about
coaching.
me. Yeah.
No lead is safe under Doc Rivers.
Yeah.
That's the Toronto fans too, when he went down, the Toronto fans cheered.
Well, they cheered when KD popped his Achilles against them in the 2019 finals. If you listen to when KD goes down,
I mean,
there's a cheer, and then the rest of the arena is like, oh, but like there's like the lower ring. You heard the like clapping and the applause, and he clearly was hurt. So I'm not surprised. It's on par.
I mean, I used to actually be a Toronto supporter, but Stan Lee was like the icing on the cake for me. I'm no longer Raptors. At least their fans can go to hell, as far as I'm concerned. That's just so uncool to cheer when somebody gets hurt. And so I'm glad they have all those homeless people there in Raptor Park to support them. Maybe you should go there, Stan, and hang out with your homeless friends.
Stan only got a ring because all of my guys out here in Warrior Nation got hurt. Let's be real here. Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant are healthy. We sweep you in 4. Get that Kawhi Leonard nonsense out of here.
So, people continue to send us your rude and crude comments, and we will be rude and crude right back. You can send those emails to admin@hoopsprospects.com. So right now, we just don't want to hear from any Toronto Raptors fans or Tito. We're going to have to start a list. But anyway, I want to thank our guest, Andrew Heath, for coming on the show. And I want to thank all of our listeners, except for Tito and Raptors fans. Make sure to join us next week. We will be joined by Guy Mura, the general manager of Antwerp in the B-Next League of Belgium and Holland. And as I said before, we expected to be visited by Jared Roden from Seton Hall. And we'll be talking Euro ball, Euro prospects, other prospects, the NBA playoffs, and more. So we'll see you next week.